Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are completely cracking the code on human attention. The source material we're looking at today basically reveals what looks like a hidden blueprint. It's this highly specific, almost mathematical set of rules that dictates exactly how to capture, hold, and totally manipulate attention in a world where everyone is just endlessly scrolling. We're not just talking about making something mildly interesting here, we're talking about the exact, literal anatomy of a viral script. Because let's face it, the digital landscape right now is essentially a war for human focus. So how do you actually stop a scrolling thumb? And once you manage to stop it, how do you keep that audience completely locked in until the very last frame without them just swiping away? Well, let's dive right in and look at the actual step-by-step mechanics of going viral.
3 to 5. That is the magic number, guys. 3 to 5 seconds. Our source makes it absolutely clear that this tiny, fleeting little window is literally all you have to create a powerful emotional hook or generate intense curiosity. I mean, think about the last time you opened your phone. How quickly did your thumb swipe past that first piece of content? Probably in a fraction of a second, right? If you don't grab an audience in this specific high-stakes micro moment, they're gone. You've lost them to the infinite scroll. You absolutely must create instant emotional tension before their brain even has time to consciously process what they're looking at. And because that window is so drastically short, the source lays down a hard, unbreakable rule. Absolutely no introductions allowed, period. In the fast-paced world of short-form content, introductions completely kill retention. If you start your script by saying, "Hi, my name is," or "Today we are going to talk about," the viewer has already swiped away. They don't know you, and frankly, they don't care yet. There is zero time to warm up. You literally have to drop the viewer directly into the deep end of the story from the very first syllable. So how exactly do you construct that 3 to 5 second deep end? Let's get right into section 1, the ultimate viral hook, grabbing attention instantly. Consider the difference between delivering a dry fact and creating a mystery. Take the phrase, "a man prays to Jesus." Okay, it's factual, it's informational, but let's be honest, it's totally boring. There's zero mystery there. Now change that exact same concept to, "he stopped praying and something strange happened." Wow, that is the curiosity gap in action. You haven't just given them a piece of information, you've actively opened a mystery. You've introduced a narrative element that demands a resolution. The human brain simply cannot help but want to know what that strange thing was. It creates this mental itch that just has to be scratched. And that is the fundamental difference between simply delivering facts and crafting a rising, curiosity-driven story that literally forces people to keep watching. So to keep that curiosity burning, the blueprint recommends another really specific trick. It amazed me how much the source insists on these tiny little micro questions. But what happened next? By injecting these split-second questions every few moments, you actively jolt the audience. You bridge one complex idea to the next, constantly resetting their focus. It's basically a way of making the viewer wonder alongside you, keeping them completely invested in the narrative flow. It gives the brain this tiny hit of anticipation, just dragging them deeper and deeper into the story. Which brings us to section 2, engineering pattern interrupts, breaking the monotony. Now, the source lays out a strict chronological timeline for this. We have our 3 to 5 second hook established at the start, right? But look at the middle gap. Every 5 to 8 seconds, you must deploy a pattern interrupt. You have to actively reset the viewer's attention span. Human beings get bored incredibly fast when we're just staring at a screen. If you go a full 10 seconds without changing the visual or auditory dynamic, you are seriously risking losing retention entirely. It's a relentless, engineered pace that's meant to carry the viewer all the way to the emotional payoff at the end. So what do these interrupts actually look like in practice? Well, the source gives us a specific toolkit to aggressively break the monotony. First up, sudden silence. This is incredibly effective. Imagine the background music suddenly just dropping out. It's a massive auditory shock because it almost makes your brain think the app or the phone just broke, right? It instantly pulls focus. Next, we have zoom cuts, which constantly change the visual framing, forcing the eye to continually readjust and stay active. Then, the emotional shift, abruptly taking the story from a sad tone to something totally shocking. And finally, a well-placed moment of humor. These are targeted visual, auditory, and emotional tools designed to keep the audience completely off balance and entirely glued to the screen. Another micro-question technique the source highlights is the abrupt shift, like, "he didn't expect this." Notice how short and punchy that is? Paired with a dramatic pause, short sentences like this feel incredibly urgent in real time. You aren't giving long, drawn-out explanations here. You're delivering quick, emotional, rapid-fire dialogue that perfectly matches the blistering speed at which people scroll through their feeds.
Moving on to Section 3, open loops and twists, keeping them hooked.
To truly lock viewers in and tell the final moments, you've got to master the open loop. As our source defines it, an open loop is an unanswered question seamlessly integrated into the story. It is a completely non-negotiable requirement for this cinematic storytelling style. Think of your favorite mystery movie, right? If they tell you exactly who the killer is in Act 1, you turn the TV off. There's no point in finishing it. The exact same psychological rule applies here in a micro format. If you answer all the viewers' questions in the middle of the script, they leave. You must open a conceptual loop early on and purposefully, agonizingly delay closing it until the very end.
2. According to the blueprint, every viral script must contain at least 2 unexpected moments or plot twists. Just one twist simply isn't enough for the viral storytelling style anymore. Why 2? Because just when they think they've figured out your first twist, bam, hitting them again shatters their expectations all over again. You have to subvert what they think is coming and then quickly twist the narrative a second time. It accelerates the pacing, and it guarantees that the audience is kept entirely on their toes.
And right before the climax, you hit them with a final, massive emotional shift. Then everything changed. This is the absolute peak of the tension. You've used your hooks, you've used your pattern interrupts, you've used your open loops and your twists to literally drag the viewer right to the edge of their seat. You've built immense, undeniable anticipation. Now you have to deliver.
And that brings us to Section 4, the emotional payoff, the final impression. What really stood out to me in the source is that you can't just end with a dry summary. The rule here is absolute. The ending cannot fall flat. You cannot simply end the story with a boring recitation of facts. The source explicitly states you must end with a strong emotional or thought-provoking payoff. You've got to use simple, relatable, emotional language to finally resolve those open loops in a way that leaves a profound impact on the viewer. Because remember, people don't share data, they share feelings. The final impression must be powerful enough to make them hit that share button so their friends can feel the exact same way. To pull all of this off, the source dictates some foundational rules that basically have to coat the entire script from start to finish. First up, short, punchy dialogue. Get in, make the point, get out. Second, simple, highly relatable language. No corporate jargon, no overly complex academic explanations. Keep it real. Third, always rely on a storytelling format. Remember, you're building rising curiosity, not just listing raw information. And finally, the overall tone must be a cinematic, slightly dramatic, viral storytelling style. This specific combination is exactly how you elevate a basic script into an unscrollable, magnetic experience. Because the ultimate reality of short-form content, the reality that this entire blueprint is built to counter, is simple. People scroll fast. That's the environment. Therefore, your rhythm must fight back. Quick, emotional, punchy. This is the exact cadence required to survive and thrive in a digital world defined by infinite distraction. So, we've unpacked the exact anatomy of human attention, as defined by our source material. You now know the mechanics of the 3-second hook, the jarring pattern interrupts every 5 seconds, the open loops, and the ultimate emotional payoff. So my final question for you is this. Now that you know the hidden blueprint, how differently will you experience your own feed? Will you be able to spot these exact psychological tricks being used on you the very next time you scroll? Keep your eyes open. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.